So you're having a glorious morning so far. I like your shirt.
Yeah, I am. It's been a good one.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining the author's table. And in one word, Ben, describe yourself.
Retired,
Retired. and then
aggressively retired,
there you go. And enjoying every minute of it, right?
every minute of it.
That's awesome. Now, what makes Ben a writer?
Uh, Actually, it was an inspiration from a young lady that was part of my church in California. And wrote a book called Choose Zoe, Lori Hughes, and it became a bestseller. Well, she stopped by our home about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and we got to talking. And I used to be a singles pastor, and she was part of my group at that time. And she asked me whatever happened to a little story that I had written. Well, I found it. She read it. She goes, "You need to finish it." So my second chapter of my first book was actually written 40 years ago,
Oh,
but I got excited about it. I finished it. I won a little recognition, and it just inspired me to continue.
awesome. That is awesome. Now, before you began um, to write your first book, Ben, did you think of like your target audience, your book design, your ISBN number? Did you think of all that stuff prior to writing, or did you what? Or did you just start writing first?
I just started writing. I had no idea of the depth of what being an author is about. I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that if you wrote something and it was reasonably good, somebody would put a cover on it, and that was the end of the story. No, that's the that's the good part. That's the
Yes.
fun part. Um, but no, I just started writing, and when I completed my first book, which is called Between the Lightning and the Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
I submitted that to Brookstone Publishing to help me do a self-publishing because I knew nothing about it, and they nurtured me along with some friends
Mm-hmm.
into getting more active, and now I have well, one that's already been traditionally published and another one that just got received and accepted 2 weeks ago.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Ben, when you were first like putting your book together, um, now did you think of like certain fonts or anything? I know they were like showing you this though, but
Mhm.
did you like even alter it, even like the guidance they were giving you, or because you did you have anything in mind, like how you wanted it?
uh, yes and no.
Okay.
My wife and I went down to the Keys. Spent a week down there just enjoying the uniqueness of that area,
Sure.
and we went to we went to a number of different places. And as I walked in, I saw a sign that said, "Write only what you know." And I
Hmm.
thought about that, and I thought, well, I've been around a bit. I know some stuff, so uh, that's what I did. I just
Yes.
simply wrote what I knew.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think though when you and sometimes you can't explain it. It's if you see something, you feel it,
Hmm.
and it's like a calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Um, Now, when you created your first book, Ben, I know you had some assistance though, but what was your biggest challenge?
Uh, Actually, my biggest challenge was that a gentleman by the name of Larry Leach, who is a publisher and I mean editor,
Hmm.
he was part of that team, and we became friends. I sent him my manuscript. He sent it back completely butchered. I mean, I had more red ink on that thing and I remember getting really depressed, thinking, well,
Hmm.
maybe this isn't for me.
Hmm.
But as I got into it, I realized he wasn't changing what I had written. He was improving what I had written and simply helping me put it in together in such a way that the reader can become a part of it, not just simply an observer.
Right.
Yeah, and that was probably my biggest struggle, is I write in the first person, and to do that sometimes you kind of close off your audience
Right. Yeah.
because you're
That.
talking to yourself.
Yes. And I think that's part of that constructive criticism.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 You got to be willing to take criticism and take a hit.
That's
You got to
correct.
be willing to hear a no, and that's one of the biggest things I've seen and learned with some of the folks that I've met in some of the conferences is that they didn't get received like they expected, so they're just going to probably quit.
Hmm.
No, don't quit.
That's
Don't
right.
quit. I'm 78 years old. Don't quit. You know,
And you
I just,
don't look it, Ben. You don't
huh?
look it. You don't look it.
Well, I've just
You're taking
I got
good
a
care of
beautiful
yourself.
wife that keeps me young.
That's right. That's fantastic. Now, now, Ben, you began writing Christian fiction in 2019, correct?
uh, yes, it was 2019 when yes
Yes.
uh, got my first three chapters done, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your novel called Between the Lightning and Thunder.
Hmm.
Now it's about James, and it's also a message for everyone, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a story of James, and if you read the scriptures, you'll find that James, at one point, was he and his family thought Jesus had maybe lost his mind. Well, then the next time you find James, he's the head of the Jerusalem church in the book of Acts. What in the world happened there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe my personal take on this is that if you notice, most of the folks in the scripture, we know them by their afflictions. We don't know them really by even by their name. We know nothing about their backstory or where they went after they met Jesus. We don't know any. We just know that they were ill or infirmed, and Jesus met them for a few moments, and their life was changed. I think God kind of allowed all that open space on either side for fiction writers to write something that gives Him glory and gives encouragement to people
Mm-hmm.
that read it.
Now, now putting that putting that book together, Ben,
Mhm.
was it easy for you, or is it a little difficult?
Writing it wasn't because
Okay.
the catalyst for the material has already been written. It's in the scripture.
Right.
So long as I didn't violate the scripture, I'm in good shape. And so I followed that exclusively. And but what did become difficult was that was where I was being mentored as to what an author needs to be far more than just simply a quill.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
mean, it's like an artist. Our quills are not brushes; they're 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 quills, and they're ink, and they're on paper. And then somebody will read them and tell you, "Good, but," or "Not so good and could be better." You got to be willing to go, "Okay, how can I do that?" You got to submit to that,
Right. You
and
know,
that's hard to do sometimes.
yeah, that's right. And I think, creativity is not just an artist.
Mm,
Creativity covers so many different areas, and writing's one of them.
right?
If
Marketing. I
yes,
mean, marketing. Nobody told me anything about marketing. You know, you need
that's
to have your brand. Brand. What do we need with a brand? I'm not a cow. What are we talking about here? Yeah, and all these things were actually it's an exciting ride if you're willing to
that's right.
allow yourself the privilege of learning something you don't know or something new.
Absolutely. I talked with authors, all over, and they when they first wrote their book or books, that's where they end.
Yeah.
And they don't realize. I mean, that's just the very beginning of your
Oh,
journey.
yeah. 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 I have a number of folks locally that they're inspired. Everybody's got a story.
That's right.
Everybody has a story,
I agree.
and everybody really, really like to see it on paper. Well, give it a shot.
That's right.
Why not?
That's right.
Um, an autobiography or maybe in a fictional story on something, some events you're familiar with, just give it a shot. I hear people say, "Well, I'm just not a writer." Well, underneath my business card, it says Ben's Quill. Then underneath that, it says, "I have a story and it's ready to be told." Well, that's true for everybody.
That's correct.
And sometimes that's an expression that a method of expression that we really need.
That's correct. Absolutely. It could be really anything. It could be, you're a great cook.
Mhm.
Create a book of recipes of your, you know,
Right.
it could be really anything, and people are still going to find interest in whatever it is. You know,
I met a young man. I don't want to
no, no,
rabbit trail off
that's
of your direction, but
that's
I met a young man and took him to lunch last week. He is just turning 30. He's just a young man, an attractive young man, tattooed from the top of his head to the bottom of his toes. He spent 18 years in prison from the age of 15 all the way up for 18 years. He did foolish things, but he came out a different man.
mm-hmm.
And he said, I hated where I was. I hated what I had done. And I hated the price I had to pay. But I loved the result. He didn't come out of there a better criminal. He came out of there a better man.
You're right. Well said. That's true.
And
Yeah.
I'm hoping he writes his story.
See,
That's what.
yeah, and there and of course, if he needs assistance, well, he can come to you. You know,
Yep. I
absolutely.
mean, I may not be the one he really needs, but I certainly. It's like any good lawyer, any good writer. You may not always have the answers, but you should know where to find them.
That's
So I've
absolutely.
got a lot of friends now in the writing field.
And yeah,
Yourself included.
yeah. Thank you. And for a gentleman like him, the sky is the limit because there will be people that want to read his story.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting story.
I
It
bet it
really,
is. I
it
bet it
is.
is. And I think there's, I mean, really, for all of us, the sky is the limit with that.
We need to be free enough to recognize. Don't try to don't 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 read Hemingway and then figure out. Okay, I got to sound like that. No, you're not Hemingway. There was one. That's great, but now it's time for you to try something else.
That is
And it
right.
was at Hemingway's house where I saw that banner.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
Wichita?
All right. Yes. Yes. That's a neat place too, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
it's on the Keys. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Now, a portrait in time, a dramatic musical presentation. I find this one very interesting. It's like comparing the past and the present and getting the same result. So,
Okay,
can you talk a little bit about that? I think that was really interesting.
it's a play that we put on at our church back in California,
Mm-hmm.
and what it is, it's really kind of interesting. It begins where we have the Last Supper on the stage. We laid it out, painted the backdrops, everything to look, and set up the table, all of it, and laid it out as close we could to Da Vinci's Last Supper.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the characters all in place. Well, during the initial part of the play, the characters come in. They come in at two at a time. They're talking to one another, and they take their place up at the table. Then they stop, and they kind of freeze in place. I am in a tuxedo. I'm off to one side, and I'm giving narration as to who these two are,
Mm-hmm.
and a little quality about them, and so on. Well, after a season, now we have all 12 plus Jesus sitting in the center, and they freeze and they look just like the Last Supper. Well, and I had already they broadcasted no photographs allowed, no flash cameras, nothing like that. Well, we've got a lady, one of our folks, sitting over here with a camera, and the first thing she does is take a picture.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm in the middle of talking. Well, she was supposed to. It was part of the play.
Oh.
All right, yeah. But she takes this picture, which offends everybody. The whole room went, you know. And I'm standing there going through my narration, and I get kind of stumbled, and I try to pick it back up, and I stumble again. And I try it again, and I can't seem to get it out. Finally, I just stop, and I turn to the guys at the Last Supper behind me. I said, "Guys, I'm sorry." And I turned back to the audience. I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, do you mind if we kind of took this from the top? Let me just step back and try this again. I'm really sorry, but I kind of got thrown." Then I turned and I looked I got my back to the audience now, looking at the table, and the guys are standing up and kind of looking over my shoulder around behind me, and they all look kind of amazed. And I said, "What are you looking at?" And I turned back. There's a young man that literally looks like a Jewish Jesus. He looks the part. If you wondered what Jesus looked like, there he is. He's got the hair, everything. Well, he actually is dressed in a robe and he's coming down the center aisle. We prepped him with some people that are in the audience that we know that, well, here's, now this is George Smith and he
Mm.
had surgery. And this is Carol so and so, and she lost her mother. Well, as he's coming down, he'll stop and look over. Carol, your mother is in good hands. George, and as he's walking up, he's hitting on people that they're going, what? You know? And he walks up and he says, and everybody's stunned. He said, what are you doing? Um, it's Easter. We're doing the Last Supper. Oh, it wasn't quite this neat, if I recall. And he walks around and he turns around and he says, he looks at the guy that's playing Jesus and he said, and you are? And he stands up and he pulls his wig off and goes, no one, you know? I mean, all of a sudden here we have Jesus. Well, while he's talking, a woman stands up from the audience and said, sir, can I say something? And Jesus said, yes, go ahead. And she says, I was pregnant and no one would take me in. I came to this church and they openly welcomed me, you know, and she's walking up and a song starts to play
Mm.
and she sings. She's a beautiful voice. And she sings a song about rejection and acceptance. And as she comes up, she takes a seat at the table. Then a centurion walks in, completely dressed, and he says, I'm a centurion. I'm a man of the law. He said, can you accept me? And Jesus says, of course. Well, the centurion moves off to one side, but a uniformed police officer from our city steps up. And he says, I'm a centurion as well. And he steps up, and with him, he sings a song. We had an officer that had a wonderful voice, right? Bottom line is this. Now, you kind of got the idea where we're going with this, right?
Yes.
The bottom line is when it's all over with, all my disciples that were in the original play are all sitting down off the sides on the steps. At the table, there is a police officer, a black woman, a young boy in a wheelchair. It's everybody that you see in your culture and your society is now taking the same positions as the Last Supper.
I love that.
You see the transition.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I
So that's what the play is.
now did you come up with this?
No, I actually saw it. I saw a part of it. I wrote this script, but
Okay.
it's really I can't take credit for it. Somebody else had a marvelous idea. I took it and kind of took off with it in a different direction.
I love that. I would like to see that myself. I think that is so unique
I
and
thought we had it recorded, but I don't have a lot of that stuff right now. I'm gonna have to check and see. If I have it, I'll get it to you.
thank you. I think you're gonna have to bring that out again, Ben. You know, I think
It's a lot of work. It takes
oh
a big group of people.
I'm sure. I think that would be so touching for so many people if that would be brought in as not just the normal service, but a nice. I think people would really understand that message.
Yeah, it's a simple message, but
Yes,
it's entertaining, and
yes,
you know
yes.
if you can get people to want to listen to you, they'll learn something from it.
That's correct. Absolutely right. Now, your latest novel
Yeah,
came out in March of this year,
yeah.
2024. Now, Three Gates to Hell.
Hmm.
Hell detours can lead to heavenly destinations. So, can you explain a little bit about that, Ben, please?
Yeah, Three Gates to Hell is the story about a young man by the name of Bobby Richards. He a police officer in the city of Oakland. He came back from Vietnam, hoping to get away from the adversarial environment, and
Mm-hmm.
found himself actually in one. And it's a story of his interaction with different people. He was not a Christian at that time. He was not involved in any churches or anything like that. But as he progresses, he starts meeting people that the Lord puts into his life. Uh, a pretty wide variety of characters on the street that pretty much show him what grace is all about.
Mm-hmm.
His partner gets killed, and The one who murdered his partner is in San Quentin prison. He finds himself going to San Quentin. It's kind of a long story, but he really didn't want to be there. But he agreed to just go in with a friend. He gets caught in what they call the three gates of hell. At San Quentin, there's a big arch, and the arch used to be, as I understand it, wooden doors where horse-drawn carts went in.
Mm.
Well, it's an old building. I mean, it's the prison's very old. Now it's all bricked in. But what you have is it gets when you walk into a steel door. There's a steel door in the wall in the arch. When you walk in, there's three gates that you get buzzed through, and then the final door into the main yard. As Bobby's going in here, his the chaplain that invited him has to go through the administration wing. So, Bobby, we're sorry, but you're going to have to go through here by yourself. It's not a problem. Just walk in. They'll buzz you in, come in, close the gate, the next one, and so on. By the time he gets to the second or third gate, it's not opening. And he's standing there for some time, and you're in this kind of a tunnel, the concrete arch. I mean, there's nothing in there, just a light bulb, and that's about it. Up in the corner is a little tiny speaker, but that's all. He's in there for close to 15 minutes, which seems like an eternity.
Sure.
And he starts yelling, and they come out and they say to him, "I'm sorry, Bobby, but we can't let you in. Unfortunately, we've had an incident on the yard. We'll get you in as soon as we can. Just make yourself comfortable as best you can." There's nothing in there, right? When the final, after he spends more than 2 hours inside that arch, when the little speaker comes on again, it says, "We can let you in now." As he's walking in, he looks at his watch. This is Saturday, the day before Easter, 1983 or 1973. I'm sorry. He looks at his watch and realizes, or 83. I was correct the first time. He looks at his watch and realizes it is 10 minutes after 3, 10 years to the day, to the minute that his partner was killed. And his partner is in San Quentin.
Oh my gosh.
He walks in through that gate, and Harry Howard, or the chaplain, is on the other side. And he doesn't want to be in there. And as he's going through, he meets a young man. Harry tells him he has to go with him on his rounds. That's the only way he can leave. So he goes around on his rounds. He's standing there on the Donner Block third tier. Harry Howard, the chaplain, is down the way, and a young man comes up to Bobby and says, "Would you pray for me?" He said, "No, I don't think so." He said, "Well, you're with the chaplain. You must know God. Would you pray for me? Because I get out in 2 weeks." Bobby looks at him and says, 2 weeks? Then what's your problem? He says, "Well, my old lady's going to show up with a needle, a hot car, and a gun, and I'm going to be back here, and I need prayer." And the young man just happens to look like Bobby's youngest son. He's all tattooed up, just like the young man I met last week. And he prays for him, and Bobby ends up working as a chaplain at San Quentin for 3.5 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But he's also, the storyline goes on to his relationship with the gentleman that killed his partner.
So how that's gotta, make your hair stand up, doesn't it? On your arms, you can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's something. Now Ben, as a writer, author, speaker, now what is your main message you would like your audience to know?
I want my audience to recognize that God's grace is fitting and purposed for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one so bad that his love is not greater. Nothing. And we're living in a world that is grasping for hope.
Mm-hmm.
And there really is only one.
That's
because
right.
everything is tangible. In a year and a half from now, I'm going to be 80 years old. 80 years old. I never thought I'd be over 13. Then I thought maybe 26. Now I'm pushing 80. My gosh, that's impossible. No, it's not impossible. And you know what? It happens to everybody.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's a race everybody wants to win, and I'm winning it.
You,
So
that's right, you are, and you. I mean, you look great for your age too. You really do.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said,
There's a,
I
you have to.
looked better at one
Oh.
time, a lot better.
But do you feel too though it really depend. You know, it's all inside. If you feel young, you know you.
If I mean, it for one thing, writing. God allowed me to do this writing thing. I believe because retirement. I, I'm a horrible golfer. I mean, you know, I got nothing but pay big money to get frustrated.
Well, you can drive the golf cart then, Ben.
Well, I do.
Okay.
I actually do. I ride the ride the golf cart for everybody.
Now,
I'm,
yeah. Now, what guidance can you provide to someone who would like to become a Christian writer?
you know, one thing about writing Christian fiction,
Hmm.
there's the majority of Christian books are not nonfiction books, but Christian fiction allows you the freedom to explore and write anything about anything you like. And one of the one of the qualities about Christian authorship is that you don't go over that edge of a fence. You're
Mm.
not allowed there. So it allows you to learn how to literally articulate your thoughts in a way that is expressive and can be received and walked with by others who can they open up the book and they're not just simply being told something and being slapped in the face with verbiage and descriptions that they don't want to see.
Right.
They can open it up and actually walk through that story and feel comfortable with it and know that I can go to the next chapter and be comfortable with that one too.
That's correct. That's where I think creative writing comes in.
When you've got one word that literally means covers every aspect of emotion, and it's a word that 80% of the populace would prefer you just kind of leave out at home or send it a mail or someplace else.
Right.
There's
Yes.
something wrong with the people that cannot communicate. I mean, we want to we we feel we're too divided now. Well, we're not going to not be divided if we can't communicate.
That's correct. You know, and I think that covers not just in writing, but everything. I mean, from comedians to, you know, if you have to be vulgar to make people laugh, well, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I just those are all kind of subjects that maybe this isn't the time for because this will be here for a
Oh
while.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember when Milton Berle was talking about that, about how at that time the comedians were more vulgar,
Hmm.
and he was the opposite.
Yeah.
You don't make people laugh by, you know, or someone else's, you know, downfall or whatever. It's yeah, I know. It's and that goes with everything, movies and everything. I mean, it's a
I think what's good if you're known for writing Christian fiction, then people who pick up your book, whether it's biblical fiction like my first book, or suspense mystery fiction like Three Gates and Innocent Soul,
mhm.
then they know what they're going to get.
Right, right.
And people aren't buying a book because they don't have a clue what's in it. They're buying a book because they know what they're going to get from it.
That's correct. Now, how do you feel about do the readers need to know the author, or really just the material in the book that they enjoy reading? Is it good to know the author too?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, you get to, I mean, if you're a reader and you move emotionally in between the pages and you literally walk with the various characters, then you kind of got to know the one who put it together because, well, let's just say that when I wrote this, uh, my pastor said we want you to do a book signing in the church. So I did a book signing. It went very well. And I can't tell you, even now, I'm getting people coming up saying, Bob Richards is Ben Randall, huh? He said, well, let's just say that it's based on factual events, and we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
You know, they want to know
Yes.
who is that person that wrote that, and
I
and if you say this does have some merit, it's fiction, but there's real people, there's real life behind it. It gives it a charge, really.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good connection for the readers to understand the author, and it's a win-win for everybody. Makes the author feel good too that
Yeah,
it's not just what I'm writing, but they're interested in me too.
yeah,
You know, it,
yeah. Well, Three Gates, or not Three Gates, Between the Lightning and Thunder was picked up for a movie. Um,
yes.
are you aware of that?
Yeah, I believe when we were talking last year.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's still in the process. What a long process.
Keep my fingers
Uh,
crossed. Yes.
yeah, do that because I mean, there's no guarantee it's going to come through. But every time I talk to them, they're always saying, "Yeah, we're still on track. We're our screenwriter is having to translate these things into action and all that." So I don't know. I know nothing about it, but that's the kind of thing. My wife and I are watching again The Chosen, and
Yes.
as we watch it, we go back and find out who these people are that are playing those various characters and who are they? What's their background? Because we are the sum of our parts, and even our
Yes.
acting, even though we may be verbalizing somebody else's words,
That's right.
our acting still has our character in it.
That's correct. Yes.
It's interesting to watch these people and how close they become to the character that they see John the Baptist to be, or whoever.
That's
You know,
correct.
it's
Now,
interesting.
now, when you write, Ben, do you do that? You put yourself into that character?
Oh yeah.
You do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, it allows me to finish the sentence of a story that I wasn't able to finish.
Okay.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
there's there's feelings, there's thoughts that there's there's events that take place that would be better served if I'd have done something else, and now I can.
That's correct. Yes. Now, Ben, what has been your greatest reward as an author?
As an author, is when I get comments like some of the reviews on Amazon and stuff like this. When I get comments from people, emails or whatever, that are saying that their relationship with God, their understanding of what grace really is, and things like that, has has not reached the level that I wanted them to reach, but was enhanced through something they were seeking and found it in one of my writings that I never wrote it for that purpose, but God chose to use it for that purpose.
That's correct. Yes.
That does my heart. Kind of makes you choke it up a little bit.
Yes, it does. Now, do you feel that he's working through you?
Oh, I don't. I couldn't. I'm not a writer. I'm not. I've got about as much creative ability as my puppy, you know. But
Yeah.
but but somehow he does.
Hmm.
Somehow you look at it and it's like, how did you do that? I don't think I did. I think I'm the quill in his hand, and that's it. And that's true also for the writers of the scripture.
Hmm.
You know, they didn't come up with a great idea. They sat down with a quill and said what God placed in their heart.
He works in mysterious ways, doesn't he?
Well, to have a guy like me writing a book, yeah,
Ben.
definitely,
Yeah. Uh,
definitely.
Ben. Now, where can readers uh, go to like purchase your books and learn more about you? Where can they
Oh,
go?
well, if you can go to my website.
Yes.
Uh, my website is bfrandall.com and or bensquill.com. Either one will take you to the website. Um, that gives a little bit of my bio and so on.
On
As
Amazon
far as
as
the
well.
books, I'm sorry.
Amazon as well.
Oh yeah. As far as the books, Amazon, ChristianBook.com, uh, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you can buy a book, That's where you can get it.
Fantastic.
Um, and Iron Stream and IronStreamMedia.com and Brookstone Publishing.com. Publications, BrookstonePublications.com. Those are the ones who published for me.
Oh,
Iron Stream picked up my last book last week. So
oh, oh,
we'll see where it goes.
yes. And speaking of that too, when that is done, please let me know so I can get you back on here so we can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I sent it in, and they called up and said they'd like to publish it, so they're sending me a contract and
Fantastic.
see what happens.
That's right. Fantastic.
See,
Now,
that's it. How in the world could a guy like me actually have somebody want to do something with his stuff?
well, you're well loved, Ben.
That's a God investment as well.
So now, when is your next event? Book signing event or event?
Uh, Let me see. What is it? Well, actually, in May is the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference. That's in North Carolina. There's the American Christian Fiction Writers is in September in New Orleans. I go to these. I really, I don't. I've done a few radio podcast type things, but only a few. I mean, this is kind of new to me, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm not wasting your
You're
tape.
you're a pro, Ben.
Wow,
Let's see that smile, Ben. I know.
that's big.
Well, aren't you going to be at the in the villages?
In the villages, that's right. In
Yes.
January, what was the date?
And I am trying to remember. Yeah, I won't be able to be at that one, but I like to be at the following year, 26.
Yes.
But
Yeah, in the villages, Florida. There's a book expo.
yes,
Uh,
it's
takes
the
place at the Eisenhower Rec
yes,
Center,
yes,
and there's a lot of wonderful authors, not just people from the villages, but from all around.
that's right.
And just it's really one of the best I've seen as far as book expo. Really good.
Well, plus too, I mean, look where it's at. I mean, it's in a beautiful, military setting. I mean, it's a fantastic place.
Oh yeah, it is very respectful of our and honoring to our veterans.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just got chills. I love being there though.
Um,
It's such a. I mean, it's a well put out. I mean, just it's so nice. But yeah, I'm gonna be at the 2026 one.
well, I'll see you then.
Of course, but well, in the meantime, we'll definitely be in touch.
Okay,
And but
forward to that.
yes, thank you. And Ben, this has been a fantastic outing with you, and I've been looking forward to this, and I wish you the very best. But please keep me in the loop, and so we can get you back on.
Okay.
And
Well, I look for Innocence Sold. That's the name of the book, and it's a story about child abduction and trafficking.
okay,
It's in a sequel to Three Gates
okay,
because it's using the same characters and so on.
okay. Oh, excellent. Now, are you doing any of the like design work yourself, or you have an assistant?
I designed the cover,
Okay,
but it may not be the cover we're going to use.
sure.
Um,
Okay,
Once the contract, this is a traditional publisher, they're going to be picking it up traditionally, so they pretty much have control or direction. But what's nice about Iron Stream is they always ask for my view and approvals and so on. They've always accepted what I had to say, so it's been good.
Oh, and do you have your books also like ebooks too?
Yes, I have ebooks. In fact, the, all the books are ebooks. You can
Okay.
find those on Amazon or wherever you might Kindle and so on. The audio book Between the Lightning and Thunder is available now.
Oh,
Okay.
fantastic.
Yeah, and that's on wherever you get audio books, Amazon and so on. Yeah,
Well, well,
yeah.
excellent, fantastic, and again, I wish you the very best and keep it up. You're doing great.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity, Brad, very much, and I really appreciate it. I enjoyed talking with you, and well, I look forward to talking with you again.
Absolutely, fantastic, and happy holidays as well, and be safe.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Yes, thank you. Have a fantastic day. Okay.
I will. You too, brother.
Thanks, Ben. Bye bye.
Bye.